Hello, it's Burgess Taylor, and today is Writer Wednesday. So, we're going to talk about writing. We're going to continue with the outlining series using the hero's journey and tarot. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I use, some of the books, and the method that I use. So, the method that I use primarily is Arwen's 33 Days to Finish Your Novel. And as an e-course, well worth it, well worth it. It's not very much. I also use The Storyteller's Tarot by Linda Perfect, and I use Tarot for Writers by Corinne Kenner. I'm going to list below some of the tarot decks, and the links to these books will be below in the description. I use Arwen's and Lisa Hunt's Fairy Tale Lenormand cards, more like oracle cards. And I also use, these are just two of the decks. These are the smaller decks. I also use the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot. These are in the 10s, so they're a little bit easier to keep up with. I have the Wizard's Tarot by Corinne Kenner and a few other. I'm going to list them below. I have the Hobbit Tarot, which are really fun to use. I have the Supernatural from this TV show Tarot, which are really fun. I'm going to use those probably in one or two other books later down the road, but I do use them on occasion. So let's get started with the hero's journey, what it is, what outlining is with it a little bit, and then I'm going to go on to show you what is in the writer's bullet journal, what I've done so far. So this is going to be a video and video. I'm going to show you, I guess right here, what we got going on. And I'm sorry, you're going to hear the airplanes. I live 10 minutes from the Air Force Base, give or take, and they're testing their fighter planes today. And this is my third attempt to do this video, and I'm just going to do it because there's no way to get around it. Every time I think they're done, they're not. The hero's journey is an archetype that kind of describes the human experience as a process of individualism and growth. It's sort of a story. Actually, it's one of our oldest stories. It sort of transcends our cultural ideologies, and symbolically it's an allegory about our individual paths on our journey. It can be retold in all different kinds of ways, and it has been, but it's basically the story of the soul. And the purpose of the tarot, along with the hero's journey, because the tarot story is actually the hero's journey to remind us of why we're here, what we're doing, what we've accomplished. It reminds us of our past and our accomplishments and our mistakes. The story of the soul's journey, of the person's journey, our experiences and stuff. So Jung explained it as the collective unconscious. He says there's this inner realm that ties all of mankind together into one collective experience, and it's this inherent knowledge, the parts of ourselves that have unspoken understanding of a shared experience. If you take the hero's journey into tarot, most people use it for divination tarot, but you can use it for writing, for creative thinking. It's a really good visual tool to spark the imagination. Steinbeck and Stephen King have actually used tarot cards for inspiration. There are tarot cards are used in the Dark Tower series. The book called The Drawing of the Three has pictures, has drawings. Michael Whalen does a really good job. I think that's who did the drawings for The Drawing of the Three, the artwork. So the story of the tarot has the major arcana, the minor arcana. The major arcana is 22 cards, and they represent like our universal archetypes. For example, the Hermit, which I have here. If you, the Hermit represents the need to seek solitude, a new direction, to a withdrawal from society. It can be some me time, some time and space away, or it could be a person of that, a person who is like that, a hermit. So there are 56 cards in the minor arcana. The minor arcana has the four suits, like playing cards, the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles. And then each suit has the numbered cards for the court cards. Each suit has 10 numbered cards, and then you have 4 court cards normally. The king, the queen, the knight, the page, Sometimes they call them different things. If you're talking about the hero's journey itself, like as far as tarot goes, the fool goes on their journey, on the journey until you end with all of the cards, and the cards can actually be explained that way and tell a story, which is really cool. So what I'm going to talk about right now is when you pull a card, Arwen suggests that you pull a card and you think about what that card means. One of the cards I pulled for my protagonist's ordinary world was this card. And this is the Three of Pentacles. And this was what she liked, what was good about her ordinary world. Stability, security. So when I look at the card, what do I get from the card? She's made herself a home, and she's based that home on certain things. She really enjoys her job and the stability and the money that she makes with her job. She also enjoys the traveling. And then I look up the meaning of the actual card and what it means. The Three of Pentacles, what I have written down, is what the hero loves is the understanding, the superficial understanding that she has in her ordinary world, in the normality, but it's sort of all on the surface. So the card that I pulled that was for what she felt was lacking in her ordinary world was the High Priestess. And the High Priestess, in one aspect, could be her grandmother, because her grandmother is the High Priestess of the Coven where she's from. But it could also mean that what it is lacking, her ordinary world is lacking, is the spirituality, the mystery, the creativity, the magic that comes from home. Her grandmother and the High Priestess represent home. So that was what one of the things. You could interpret it any different way. Now, the Hanged Man was the main card that I pulled for the ordinary world. We're going to get to this in a minute, but I'm just going to kind of give you an example. The Hanged Man is a writer, but it also represents self-sacrifice and martyrdom and mystic or restraint. It can represent psychic ability, a seeker, a trance, work and balance, like the balance between work and home and your life in general, or a lack of balance in your life. An act of trying to be normal is what I got. So her ordinary world is this balancing act of constantly trying to be normal, to fit in the normal world, that she's sacrificing her dreams. She's thinking in the back of her head, her subconscious, constantly about this. She's got to walk around with this immense amount of restraint all the time, and it's going to wear and tear on her mentally and physically. She's sort of either walking around in a trance, kind of numb, trying to be pretend, and there's this definite lack of balance. So that just kind of gives you an example. So right now, right here, we're going to start with some of the pictures that I have. I glued that picture of the typewriter onto my bullet journal for writing. That picture came from Flow magazine, and what you see, the tarot cards and my writer notebook. So the next part that you're going to see is where it's open, and I told you I was going to write something on that one page where the key sort of ghosted onto the back page. Well, I wrote, we all have a story to tell, because we do all have a story to tell. So then you get to the next page, and the next page is my outline. Those are my outline notes. So like your first step, if you want to create an outline, for me, I'm a character-based writer. So I'm going to want to create a character. I want my character to appeal to the reader. I want the character to stand out. I want that character to be memorable. You don't want a dull, boring main character, because your reader will not continue to read your book. You want to do sort of like a character interview and ask questions like you were interviewing that character, so you can get a good character sketch. You're going to want to do that with all of those main characters. A more in-depth character sketch, I do minor character sketches for the minor characters, but I do more in-depth ones for that handful of main characters that you're going to see pretty much either in every chapter or every other chapter, along with the protagonist and maybe the antagonist. You're going to want to do, like I said, a character sketch for the main characters. So that would be your protagonist, your antagonist, your love interest, your mentor, maybe the sidekick, that kind of thing. I still need to work on the brother's character sketch because he's more or less going to be her sidekick. So the third step would be to actually start the outline. Now, the ordinary world, I wrote down some information. In the ordinary world, that the hero represents the flaw in the ordinary world. There's got to be a flaw. Later, you're going to have more flaws, and things are going to change some. But in the ordinary world, there has to be something that's not quite right, that doesn't really feel quite right. Maybe it's not what it appears to be. And for my protagonist, that is that this ordinary world, she's living in the mundane world. She's left her family. She still visits, but she's left the witchy business and she's living in the normal world, and she misses it. And she's, even though you could tell she's still chosen a profession that has to do with the paranormal. She proves or disproves whether houses are haunted, people are psychic or paranormal or not. She reveals hoaxes for a living. So then I wrote a summary. That summary I wasn't really liking very much. So then I went on to the next summary. I rewrote it. I'm still going to be working on it. I have arrows that says improve with an exclamation point. So now we actually get to where I'm outlining the ordinary world. So I stuck the prologue up there. I pulled the Empress, the Fool, and the Death card for the prologue. The grandmother, the witch who practices the dark magic, who kills her, and the murder. So we've got the grandmother, the witch, and the murder in the prologue. So then we get to the ordinary world, which is where my protagonist starts. And I have the Hanged Man, like I talked about those cards I pulled. And then I wrote some of that. Quinn's ordinary world is one of complete normality. She works, she goes home. Her job is to prove or disprove that places are haunted, that a person has or does not have psychic ability, to prove or disprove the paranormal, whether it's a hoax or not. So why? Why all the normality in an abnormal profession and a job that constantly puts her in the paranormal world when she wanted to get away from the paranormal world? She wanted anything to do with that. So, which is why she moved away from home when she went away to college. She stayed away, except for visits, and she does go visit. Her family was in the paranormal business, the witchy business to be exact. So she's escaped one sort of paranormal business for a different kind of paranormal business. So she couldn't get away from it altogether. So chapter 1 opens with Quinn being in a hotel room in Temple, Georgia. She's researching a story about a haunted house, and she's about to leave to go to the library to look up the history of the house and the town and stuff when she gets a telephone call from her brother about her grandmother's death. And then I go on to list some more information. So I list information until I get to a point where I'm getting close to the actual setup of the call to adventure. So the hero's journey has, I can either show you the circle or I can do it on here. The hero's journey has 17 main steps. So in the beginning, when I'm doing this, I'm going to have 17 main chapters, well, 18 considering the prologue. So we have 17 parts to the hero's journey. You go around full circle, and this, she has it like this. I've seen other ones where it really just depends on what you have. Basically, I'm going to end up with 18 chapters, which includes the prologue, 17 or 18 chapters. And then I'm going to be writing each chapter. Once I'm done with that chapter, when I get to the editing part, I will break those bigger chapters, some of the bigger chapters, up into 2 chapters. So what I'm probably going to end up with is about 27 chapters, give or take. I like the odd number thing. If they're bigger chapters, that's okay. I think it really just depends on what you want out of your novel. Like I said, though, there are probably going to be chapters that are get broken up. So if I end up with going from 17 to 23 or to 27, I'm fine with that. I've seen books where they have small chapters. I've seen books where they have large chapters. Really just depends on how you tell your story and what you want. So that's what I have so far. Next, we'll be doing the call to adventure, and we'll be talking about a few other things, and I will show you some more in my writer bullet journal. If you have any questions or anything, please just leave me a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you, and have a great one. Bye.